The day after Jia Huan reached the 100th floor, he had his doubt whether the tower actually inside the mayor's dream. He doubts again whether the demon can't kill him, whether being a human that can be shamelessly restored anytime. The essence of the word was being torn apart, and the chatter started. At the end of his numerous doubts, he reached a place where there were no longer any doubts. He pierced through understanding. At this moment in time, all of Jia Huan thrusts manages to hurt the demon, and it enraged Beastrain. He temporarily lifted the agreed restrictions, screaming that he won't go easy on Jia Huan anymore. The demon's counterattack is indeed several times fiercer than before, and he deeply cuts Jia Huan up. Beastrain expresses how amazing Jia Huan is for being able to adapt to round 2 shortly after he finished the tutorial. But he claims that is the limit for a human. He keeps attacking Jia Huan with no gap, wounding him more. Jia Huan doesn't just take the attack though, he also keeps thrusting his sword. As he keeps thrusting, he approached 10 billion thrusts. Beastrain keeps running his mouth, saying that Jia Huan needs to participate in the actual game anyway, adding that attacking the demon, the one who will be losing out is Jia Huan. That's when he reached the 10 billion mark. As he thrusted for 1 billion times, he sees the line that shows him where to thrust, just like when he deals with the 98th and 99th boss. He doesn't wait for long and instinctively thrusts his sword toward the demon. The surprised demon can't believe that the human wasn't merely adapting. It is a power possessed by an awakened hero. As Beastrain being powerless in the face of Jia Huan's power, he asks Beastrain to listen to him for the last time, and he says that humans aren't things that the demon can just trade around. Humanity aren't insignificant baseline that the demon can just use as he pleases and digitize, and aren't products that he can place a price on. Jia Huan will no longer follow the scenario that the demon planned. He will destroy the tower and climb to the next floor and keep going up further and further. Then the status info on Jia Huan is broken and Beastrain is begging him to stop, as he claims that no such thing as the next level. But Jia Huan is convinced that the next level is in fact exists. He somewhat know how to read the scribbling in the tower, where it says that the entire Tower of Nightmares is just the imitation of the first demon, the top of the illusion tree. At this point, Jia Huan knows that the tower is placed at the root of the illusion tree, so he is sure the next level is the trunk. Then if he can break through the ceiling, that's when he can go to the next level. All kind of notification from the tower says that an unexpected error has occurred while calculating. When it tries to find the remaining tower walker, it finds that no walker exists within the current Tower of Nightmares, and the tutorial game has completely ended. Jia Huan then wakes up in some kind of tropical forest, where he claims that he found the next level. Appear in front of him a pack of wolf, with sword in hand, he stand there readily to slay them all. Yet, with a slight thrust he easily split the wolf in half, and the wolf's leader appears, which makes Jia Huan thinks that a slight thrust won't be enough for him. Well, he uses normal thrust and he split open the wolf to pieces. Harvesting the horn from the wolves, Jia Huan thoughts that the monster there were weak, but he doesn't know it yet that he is just broken. The next thing that comes out is a horde of green ant, saying how dare that a mere human harvesting the Tentahorn horns. The ant then attacks him, but because Jia Huan able to understand them, he doesn't immediately slay them. Instead he tries to stop them and threaten to kill them if they dares to attack him again. Well, in the end, he massacred the whole pack of ant, and he left one alive to ask him question. But the ant instead mocks him and Jia Huan tortures him, telling him to speak in a way that he can understand. Then, instead of getting tortured more, the ant just bit his own tongue. Even though they are weak in front of Jia Huan, they still have huge willpower than he expected. Upon checking the body of the ants, he finds a small dimensional backpack which allows him to store the bulky items like an inventory. He thought he would be able to use the interface system of other dimensional worlds like the Almighty Land though, but he feels relieved to be able to see information on the item in this place anyway. Upon checking his sword from the 99th floor, he finds out that the sword able to change its form and swallow the corpses. Lastly, he also finds a map that shows the Illusion 3 Chaos. Somewhere else, there's a red-haired woman herding a pack of wolves to his teammates. They were surprised to see that she is messing with a Bihorn, a wolf boss with 2 horns. Jia Huan sees them from afar, presumes that they will die dealing with the Bihorn. He knows that the woman is the strongest among them, thinking that she might scam them or something. As a red bulky man prepares his attack, the woman claims that she will help him. Instead she punches him in the face, though the Bihorn right in front of him going to devour him to pieces. With a single thrust, Jia Huan saves him, breaking open the Bihorn's skull. Upon talking with them, Jia Huan let them take the Bihorn's corpse, while on the sideline, the red-haired woman is anxious about something. It revealed to them that Jia Huan is just someone passing, yet it still confuses them. On top of that, he can't speak the language of that place, which is weird for them. From behind, the red-haired woman tries to check Ja Huan out, but her skill unable to see his status, so she tries to speak with him, telling that there are less than a handful of adapters throughout Chaos who can kill a Bihorn with just a thrust. She asks who Ja Huan really is and where did he come from. But he doesn't know what Chaos is, so he asks her about it, which makes her flustered as she thoughts Ja Huan messing with her. She tries to make sure whether he understands what she is saying, which Ja Huan claims he does. Ja Huan knows who he is. It's just where he belonged to, and the relationship he had on Earth all became meaningless the moment he entered the tower. In return, Ja Huan gained new comrades and memories. But as the tutorial came to an end, they all disappeared as if they were a mirage. Although those comrades that were with him are probably somewhere on Earth, and the clear reward was that he could retain all his memories while he starts over. They wouldn't remember him nor the memories they had in the tower. So Ja Huan claims that he doesn't remember anything to the red-haired woman. But she doesn't believe him and starts shouting at him, and she can only assumes that Ja Huan is the might of the abyss or something. Meanwhile, his weapon is vibrating and Ja Huan takes it up. It changes form and devours the weapon that Ja Huan gives to it, making the red-haired woman surprised, and she recognized it as a spirit weapon. Also, the other party members notice it, thinking that a spirit weapon right in front of them, while Ja Huan completely oblivious that they are watching. The red-haired woman can't believe that someone like Ja Huan ruined her mission to eliminate the leader of the party. In the end, she offers him something, so she asks him whether he would like to hear it or not. The woman introduces herself as Mino. She gave a simple explanation as to what Chaos is. Both Ja Huan and Mino then talk about the party. It turns out that they are a heinous group of guys that belong to a clan named Black Fox, and she asks him to kill them. Well, she tells him that Ja Huan will find out soon, because they will definitely go after him. When the night falls, the leader says that they will stop and camp there, as they might provoke the horned monster if they move. Ja Huan knows that based on the maps, the village is not too far from there, so he wants to see what they are going to do. At this point, he is a second stage awakened, which enable him to use comprehension on items or matter in Chaos. While the other members talk to themselves, they evaluate that Ja Huan's spirit power is low, even lower than the leader, so they assumes that Ja Huan can kill the Bihorn only because the help of his spirit weapon. Meanwhile, Ja Huan is confused as Beastrain claims that items in the Tower of Nightmares isn't that impressive, yet to think that people are after it is beyond him for now. One thing for sure is he knows that Chaos is not the almighty land. When the Black Foxes are finally moving, Mino tries to warn Ja Huan, but he just lay down there. She asks him to use the spirit weapon to get rid of them, but Ja Huan claims that he doesn't have it anymore though. He says that he lent it to someone else, as the person claims that he wanted to take a look during his night watch. Then the leader mocks him because now Ja Huan doesn't have the weapon anymore. He wants to get rid both of Mino and Ja Huan so he can go back to sleep. Mino is mad, calling them all kind of thing, and releases her power, while Ja Huan is excited that he finally able to see her true abilities. They come with eyes full of bloodlust as they can easily beat both of them down easily with number. But, with a swing of her hand, Mino able to eliminate two members in an instant. She grabs a black dagger and throws it to another member so hard to satisfy her anger, as she says sorry for throwing it too hard. As of right now, she expresses how angry she is, and from that point on, she asks them to come at her at the same time. The leader suspicious about her before, but now he is sure that Mino is the Witch of Massacre. He asks her about who commissioned her to assassinate in the Dark Forest, and she doesn't regard him that much, saying that the Black Foxes have killed countless non-adapter, so naturally, Chaos is filled with people asking her to kill them. So, the leader uses the Ja Huan spirit weapon, with more Black Fox members show up behind him. It turns out that he also calls out to his master, saying that if the spirit weapon can easily falls into his hand, he shouldn't have called the master. Plant, the clan master of the Black Fox, is a third stage adapter. He reveals that half of the Black Fox members has gathered just to hunt Ja Huan. Mino thoughts how a true honor for her that he does that. She then calls out to Ja Huan, apologizes that she can't protect him now. She gives him an escape stone, where it looks like a return or mare's stone. Mino explained that it's a stone of escape. If Ja Huan uses it, he can teleport to the nearest fortress, and she only has one of them, telling him he should use it. Ja Huan asks Mino if there were a way to go back to the past. Would she go back? She said that of course she would never go back. She has lived too hard to go back. If she die, she will die today, and she will never go back to the past. That's when Jia Huan step up, saying that Mino won't die today, unsheathing his sword and starts killing the Black Fox's member. The leader uses a spell to buff his member, and fire appears on the member's body. Yet, they are simply get massacred by Jia Huan. When Jia Huan reaches Clint, his chest just simply gets split open by Jia Huan. And behind him, the red-haired man who has Jia Huan's sword. As Jia Huan approaches the man, the red-haired man just kneel there serving Jia Huan the sword. Now, with the spirit weapon in hand, Jia Huan uses a slight thrust and massacre the whole Black Fox's member. Surprises Mino, because initially she thinks that he was a fool for letting them take his sword, and just an idiot who was insensitive to danger. But that was not true, because Jia Huan is just simply too strong. She then asks him again about his true identity, and he says whether she already forgotten, adding that she already know who he is. He teases her, asking whether she also lost her memories now, making her flustered. So, she asks about the escape stone that she gave to Jia Huan, but he refuses to give it to her, saying that he doesn't have it anymore. The truth is, Jia Huan already destroyed it. A little later, over a bonfire, he looks at the sky, feeling how peaceful it is, while Mino is freaking out looking for the stone, saying that because of one clueless man, she need to look for it in all kind of places. Jia Huan then says that as he thoughts that Mino is already know about his identity where he is a human. She is confused by it, so he asks her again whether she is a human, which she said that she is, and for Jia Huan it is good enough to befriend her. It instead confuses her though, yet she didn't think too much of it and they end the night. The next morning, they walk towards the village, and Mino claims that she is envious at him for not remembering how Jia Huan comes to chaos. So he asks how did Mino comes to chaos, and she explained that if he knows what he is asking, he will really come to regret it. Then they arrive at Gorgon Fortress, and Jia Huan notices an altar that looks like the summoning circle on the first floor on the Tower of Nightmares, where suddenly a lot of people appear on the altar, screaming all kind of things. And Jia Huan knows well when humans make that expression. Mino explained to him, as Jia Huan is able to see it himself, people that come to chaos is the one that died from the tower in all kind of world. He reminds him not to ask how people come to chaos as she welcome him to it. Chaos, the land of the dead. Not too long after, a lot of officers comes toward the altar welcoming them. They bring a blanket and the captain tells his men to line them up and take them straight to the speech hall. Turns out that Mino recognizes the captain calling out to him, James. She tells him that she happened to come to the fortress, and since they recognized each other, she asks him to just let her through. But James refuses her though, explaining that the situation has changed a little, as not too long ago the higher up changed the policy. So, those who want to enter the fortress must present a certificate. She then bribed the captain with a horn from the Bihorn, which he gladly accepts. Next, he asks Jia Huan about the certificate, which he doesn't have anything like that. Mino then teases him, saying that she will help him if he says please. The captain explained that he can't enter the fortress if he doesn't have a certificate, so Jia Huan tries to grab something from his clothes. That makes Mino worries, wondering whether Jia Huan is planning on killing all the guard and massacre his way into the fortress. Knowing what kind of person Jia Huan is, Mino thoughts that he might really do it. But as Mino tries to cover for him, there is a person calling out to them, asking what is happening in there. It turns out to be the manager of the cleanest checkpoint in Chaos, Northern Checkpoint, Chief Stubborn, Carlton. Arriving right at the front of James, Carlton asks him to explain what's going on. So he explained that Jia Huan wants to come inside even though he doesn't have a certificate. Carlton then tells him that of course he can't go in. But when Jia Huan asks why, Carlton reads the law that forbid him in doing so. It is also his power though, which bind everyone around the vicinity, making them kneel. It's called the Gorgon Restraint Act. But, with a swing of his sword, Jia Huan breaking Mino and himself free, explaining that he is not interested in Carlton's law or anything. He then adds that he don't need the certificate, as he will prove his identity himself. But Carlton ignores him though. He uses another law act, releasing a white chain trying to bind Jia Huan. Again, he is easily break free from the chain, which surprised everyone. In the end, Jia Huan asks whether he can just do what Minos did to the captain. It makes James pale white, feeling shocks and afraid that he might be exposed. Well, Jia Huan just throws a thing to Carlton without giving a single care to the others or Mino. Noticing the thing, James shouts to Jia Huan saying how dare he tries to bribe the chief, suggesting that he should be executed. But Carlton hold him off, saying that he was waiting for Jia Huan, the messenger of the Greens. Checking on Mino's soul corruption, the devices recommends her to take medication as soon as possible as her soul corruption has exceeded 15%. She then explained that soul corruption is a chronic disease that everyone living in chaos has. Just by existing in chaos, one's soul will gradually get corrupted. That is why the horn monsters is precious for the human in chaos, as the horn is the only medicine that can reduce soul corruption in chaos. Carlton then measured Jahuan's, but the device cannot measure the level of soul corruption on him, and it shows 0% on the display. Carlton then smiles, giving back the thing that Jahuan gave to him. Carlton tells him that he should not so readily hand over a soul stone to just anyone, calling him Messenger of the Green. But Jahuan says that he is not from the Greens or whatever Carlton keeps saying, which he already knows. Carlton then explained that a soul stone is a precious item that amplifies the spiritual power, but it's not as simple as that. In that little time Carlton hold on to it, his hand entirely get corrupted. So, one who is not one of the Greens will never be able to handle the soul stone. The only beings capable of carrying the stone without getting corrupted are the Greens. Even though Jahuan is not one of the Greens, Carlton believes in Jahuan's soul. He explained why the device cannot measure Jahuan's soul, because his soul is the purest among all of soul and chaos. As Carlton and James walk inside the fortress, like James' nightmare comes true. Carlton mentioned that apparently there is someone at the gate who lets people through after taking a bribe. Meanwhile in the village, Jahuan thoughts how things have progressing too complicated. On top of that, he is carrying a dead weight, after Carlton punished Mina with the Law Act for not carrying her own identification certificate, and becomes mindless zombie that follows Jahuan around. He then asks the villagers that he is looking for a blacksmith who is skilled in working with sword, where there's someone notices his spirit weapon. Arriving at a tunnel, Mina awakes and Jahuan tells her to go on her own way. But she doesn't want to though, saying that it's too far for him to abandon her like that. She assumes that Jahuan is still pissed at her because she tried to leave him at the gate, but she only meant it as a joke. He then says that it's enough for her as he has now been guided to the castle. From there on, she will be a hindrance, because Jahuan and Mino are different, and again, he tells her to go on her own way. But, just like a couple fights, Mino decides to follow him anyway, asking him whether he knows where he was going. Looking at her, Jahuan reveals that he is going to find the nightmare. It turns out that she might know one place where he might be, then they agree to go there. But before that, he needs to deal with the people that follow them, as there are some guys who have got some business with them. There are a group of thugs asking Jahuan to give them the sword, but he just blatantly refuses it. While it's going on, Mino instead mad at the youngest thugs, where it is obviously the biggest person from the group. Jahuan had enough of it. He thrusts at the thug's hand, he aim a little up from the group, to warns them. As it is annoying to him, he asks them to attack together quickly. The leader is mad that his cute youngest's hand get cut off, so together they attack Jahuan. But he didn't kill them though, instead he just knocks them out. Nino teases him whether he knows something else other than thrust, which Jahuan says that he doesn't. He basically spent 15 years of his life to thrust his sword. She then wonder why he misses his thrust earlier blowing up the roof. It turns out that he notices someone was using some hidden skill over on the roof. So Jahuan decides to scare him a bit, because it was annoying to him. A little later, they finally arrive at the smithy called Twilight's Fall.